From the station working for you, this is WRTV News at 5:30, streaming now.
And now at 5:30, safely back to school. For some families, that means parents are also becoming teachers. We'll take a look at the homeschool choice. Chris.
Here's what's topping our lineup today. Concerns about the job market are growing again when new relief should be on the way for those who are struggling. And the U.S. Postal Service has been under fire for slowdowns, while the Postmaster General may not be the only one under the microscope. And many students across the country are back in school or getting ready to start again. Look, it can be a stressful time. We have the signs that experts say you should be looking for if your child might not be okay.
Now at 5:30, returning children safely back to school can look different for each family. And more Indiana families are turning to homeschooling amid the pandemic. As thousands of kids start the school year, some in person, some virtually, one Indiana mom is taking on the role of teacher for her child. WRTV's Alyssa Donovan shares her story.
My daughter Ada is 10 and my son Oscar is 6.
And instead of returning to classrooms this year, Liz Boltz-Ranfeld's kids will be at the kitchen table, sitting in bed, or doing their lessons in the backyard. For now, Ranfeld is just homeschooling her daughter, who's in 5th grade, while opting for virtual learning for her son through his school district. The choice for their family to do some type of distance learning was an easy one.
My husband has several pretty serious chronic respiratory diseases, and we knew that we could not send them back into the school setting.
Ranfeld is using a mixture of strategies for her daughter's curriculum, including workbooks, activities, and OutSchool, an online platform for virtual classes.
Some of them have homework, some of them don't. Some of them are one-time classes that are an art project or talking about a history lesson. Others are ongoing classes that you take week after week and do writing.
While they don't plan to homeschool forever, right now, it's what's right for their family.
It makes us feel safer because we know that we are limiting not just our exposure to COVID, but specifically my husband's exposure. He would have very severe health implications if he were to get sick.
Ranfeld also feels since she is now working from home and has the ability to homeschool, the choice is also helpful to keeping others safe.
That by keeping them home and keeping them out of the classroom, we're helping to reduce the number of students who need to be in the classroom. That's one fewer kid that's crowding the room in terms of making distancing difficult.
Working for you, I'm Alyssa Donovan, WRTV.
Thanks, Alyssa. And the sun shining again here on another beautiful weather day across central Indiana as we check out the Circle City there. Our temperatures right around 80 degrees here. We are one of the cooler spots, even cooler than Chicago right now at 85. So the heat is building off to the west, and gradually things are going to start to heat up here in the Hoosier State. But temperatures right now can't beat it at 79 in Indy, 84 right now in Lafayette, and Bloomington at 82 with just a very light southeast breeze. Radar really going to continue to get a break here, at least for the next 24 to possibly 48 hours. Most areas are going to stay dry until we get into the upcoming weekend. So your planner for this evening has those clear skies with our sun setting around 8:30. We'll have our temperature 76 degrees here at 8 o'clock, and we'll get into the lower 70s as we approach 10 with those clear skies. And by tomorrow morning, once again, temperatures will start off in the 50s. That might be the last morning, though. We'll talk more about that warm up for the weekend in a few minutes. Chris?
When a vaccine is approved, who will get it? How will it get to them? Johns Hopkins has a plan to make frontline workers and those most vulnerable first in line. But there are some other experts saying that may not be the best approach.
It may be better to, for example, immunize people who are at high risk of transmitting the virus, both because of jobs, living situations, and other circumstances. And that, I think, we have to leave an open mind and look at some detailed modeling about what the best way is to reduce the premature mortality.
That is Dr. Ezekiel Emanuel of the University of Pennsylvania speaking with the head of the Journal of the American Medical Association. He said transmission between healthcare workers and patients is basically zero where he is. He says effective PPE use is the reason why, and the groups that Johns Hopkins said should get a vaccine first, that could be a group the size of around 90 million people, and he says there won't be enough doses out of the gate to get to all of those members of those initial groups.
you don't actually distribute it evenly among countries. You concentrate on countries that at the moment when you have the vaccine have the severe hot spots and where the vaccine is going to make the biggest difference in terms of reducing premature death.
Johns Hopkins experts say a vaccine's effectiveness is measured on preventing disease. That doesn't mean it prevents infection and transmission. We won't know how effective it will be until after it's in use.
A disease transmission strategy makes a lot of sense, but we need a lot more information before we can know who to prioritize. And it's quite possible that eventually we will go to a strategy like that.
The WHO said that younger people in their 20s, 30s, and 40s are increasingly driving the spread. The first vaccines will likely also be 2 doses, meaning you need double the syringes, needles, vials, and other supplies, along with getting people to come back for a second dose. Former White House advisor Steve Bannon is now facing charges. The Justice Department says that he and 3 other people defrauded those who donated to a crowdfunding campaign to build a wall on the southern border. Prosecutors say they took the money for themselves. All right, next in our lineup, the latest unemployment numbers are not what experts were hoping for. The jobless claims that are raising some new concerns and when relief could be on the way. $1.1 million people filed new jobless claims last week. That's according to the Department of Labor's latest report. Meanwhile, there were nearly 15 million continuing claims for unemployment last week, and many are struggling to live off the benefits they're receiving. Alicia Nieves shows us where Congress is at with a new stimulus plan and why the president's executive order won't help some of those who need it most.
The House will be in order.
Congress is still in a stalemate over a new stimulus package, which means those unemployed have to live off their state's normal unemployment benefits right now.
The national average for unemployment benefits dropped from nearly $400 a week before the pandemic to just $308 a week in June of this year, in particular because so many low-wage workers, were losing their jobs.
Andrew Stetner, a senior fellow at the Century Foundation, explains many low-wage workers could be getting far less than the average state weekly benefit. For example, in a state like Hawaii, some low-wage workers could be getting the state's minimum payout of just $5 a week right now. In other states like Louisiana, Connecticut, North Carolina, Nevada, Oklahoma, and Delaware, their minimums aren't much higher either. In fact,
all but 9 states have minimum benefits below $100, per week.
Here's why that's important, especially now.
If you don't get $100 in unemployment benefits from the state, you can't get Trump's new lost wage assistance.
The president's executive order for lost wage assistance is an additional $300 a week from the federal government for those on unemployment and is supposed to run through the end of the year. It's the only stopgap in place to help those unemployed right now, but it doesn't help those who may need it the most. That's why many are urging Congress to quickly come to an agreement on the next stimulus bill that helps everyone struggling.
It's a very difficult period. I think there is the will to continue federal unemployment benefits. The Trump executive order promises them through December 27, but there's not enough money to fulfill that promise. So I think there is the will to do the right thing, but there's a lot of things that are getting in the way.
I'm Alicia Nieves reporting.
Alicia, thank you. Now, still ahead in our lineup, the Postal Service is under fire, and now the Postmaster General could be sharing the brunt of that criticism. We have the details behind the USPS Board of Governors. You may have never heard of them. We're digging into the role that it's playing in the current slowdown. Going back to school right now can cause feelings of anxiety and stress for many students. Experts say that is completely normal. Many things have changed since kids were last at school. Child psychologists are encouraging families to talk about those feelings because there could be new worries about virtual learning if they're going back in person. What are they expected to do differently at school? And how are teachers and students expected to stay at a safe distance from each other?
The most important things to do are to talk in realistic language, but also to partner with kids about working through it together, being there to support them, and that you can provide a consistent presence for them.
Now, whatever changes your family is going through this year, it can be helpful to practice for what's ahead. If they're doing virtual learning, you want to go through that new routine. And if they're going back to class in person, take a look at the new rules and regulations that the school has put in place. Now, even if they are doing the virtual learning, take a look if there's a plan if the school moves to in-person learning. Now, parents should look for sudden changes in sleep and eating habits, as well as personality changes.
If they're normally an outgoing kid, are they seeming really withdrawn or introverted or not wanting to engage, or vice versa? Are they acting out a lot, and are they, acting in angry or frustrated ways a lot more than you would think?
Now, families should encourage conversations about how they're feeling and thinking and how to manage those emotions. OnOurSleeves.org has free resources on how to help kids right now, how to recognize these changes, how to start conversations about mental health, and how to find providers in your area.
Well, this year has not been normal for those who are usually busy with Indy 500 events. And the 500 Festival events didn't happen like the parade and the mini marathon, but today they tried to bring a taste of the festival to the public. The 500 Festival princesses were among those who set up a drive-through version of the festival in the parking lot of the 71st Street McDonald's on the northwest side of Indianapolis. It was a festive atmosphere and a small slice we missed this year because of the pandemic.
It's a fun opportunity for people to come out and have just something that feels familiar, like the month of May. We've got 500 Festival princesses out here, race to car, pace cars. They can come out, they can have a little piece of what they've come to expect on race week. They can do it safely from their car, but also they can give back. And it's a way to make a small contribution to help nonprofits like the 500 Festival offset some of those losses.
And the princesses also collected donations for the 500 Festival Foundation. Kyle, a great day for them to all be out there, too.
Yeah, and I saw some of those convertibles. The tops were down.
I could go for a McFlurry now in the sun. That'd be pretty good.
The sun has been great here the last couple of days. A lot of blue sky out there. Our weather will change a little bit here as we go into the upcoming weekend, but right now we are enjoying temperatures that range from 77 in Richmond and Columbus to 84 degrees right now in Lafayette. Tonight, our temperature settles back into the 50s. I think about 59 in the city. We will be a little cooler in those outlying areas as we have that calm wind and clear skies. So that combination allows those temperatures to cool pretty efficiently here. And as we go into the day tomorrow, we do start off with some sunshine here for your finally Friday as temperatures get to 72 degrees here by mid-morning. Lunch hour temperature close to 80 degrees, and we'll get into the middle 80s tomorrow afternoon as we gradually increase those clouds a little bit heading through the afternoon hours. 86 for you in Bloomington, 84 in Muncie and Kokomo, and the weekend forecast, there's about a 30 to 40% chance of a shower or thunderstorm here on Saturday. The high 83, it'll be a little more humid there as well. For race day right now, it's just a 20% chance of rain and that high temperature at 86. Looking at the extended forecast now as we go into next week, we're going to dial up the heat once again. High temperatures right around 90 degrees Monday through Thursday. Looks like it should be fairly dry though. Chris?
Turning to the news feed, Airbnb is banning house parties worldwide. It's trying to comply with coronavirus guidelines on gatherings. Rental home occupancy levels will be limited to 16 people or less. You can go see a movie today in a theater as AMC is reopening, and tickets just 15 cents today. That is the same price as tickets back in 1920. There will be new guidelines in place so people can keep distance. Well, it's the end of an era for the place where everyone knows your name. After 20 years, Cheers is closing in Boston. The owner says issues with the landlord along with the pandemic led to this landmark bar having to close. Well, the pandemic has been impacting pets really hard. More than 4 million dogs, cats, and other animals could be living in poverty with owners in the next 6 months. That's according to the ASPCA. Now, if the national unemployment rate stays around 10%, more than 24 million pets could be in poverty, which is a 21% increase compared to February before the pandemic started. Pet food and vet care, it can be expensive, and the ASPCA says a lack of affordable vet care and limited access to spay and neuter services are really some reasons that are driving people to give up their pets. Red Rover is a group that helps people afford care. They say they're seeing a 24% increase in urgent care grant applications compared to last year. They usually give out around $250 to pet owners.
So it's a very small amount of money, but what we've found is it really is that stopgap between helping them start service with start care with a veterinarian. So, just having a little bit to get going.
Now, your pet has to have a diagnosis before you can apply for a grant at redrover.org. If you don't qualify, they'll help connect you with other resources. The Humane Society also has more resources on its website to find pet financial aid and discounted vet care close by. It's under the FAQ section at the bottom of the main page at humanesociety.org. Tomorrow will be a big day for the Postmaster General. He's set to answer lawmakers' questions, but he's not the one making all the decisions for the post office. Our partners at Newsy and investigative reporter Patrick Terpstra are learning more about the Postal Service Board of Governors and the criticism claiming the board is full of inexperience.
The little-known Postal Service Board of Governors hires and can fire the Postmaster General, including Louis DeJoy. They have the power to shape strategy for preventing trouble with mail-in ballots this election.
The Board of Governors acts very much like a board of directors and provides strategic direction to management and holds management accountable.
But the Postal Service has not had a Board of Governors at full power for years.
It's not the situation any of us would like to be in.
4 of the 11 seats are empty. Vacancies have been a problem for a decade. In 2016, after presidential nominations to the board kept stalling in the Senate, the number of members dwindled to 0.
Washington is extremely dysfunctional. It's that simple.
With the White House and Senate leadership in the same party's hands, President Trump succeeded in appointing 6 governors. The Postmaster General serves as the 7th. They're all men with backgrounds in business, health, and transportation, but not the mail.
Although I do not yet have an in-depth knowledge of the Postal Service, I'm anxious to learn as much as possible.
All of the governors except one are new, serving a year or less.
The least experienced set of governors we've probably ever had.
As for their politics, while Chairman Robert Duncan is a major GOP donor who once ran the Republican National Committee, at least 2 of 7 governors support Democrats. Ron Bloom served in the Obama administration, and Donald Lee Moak has contributed to Joe Biden and other Democrats.
The public should have a lot of confidence in these governors. These governors are successful executives. Their reputations are at stake.
None of the governors responded to our request for an interview about what they're doing to ensure mass voting by mail will work, as President Trump campaigns against it. Governor Moak posted to his website, "I received tens of thousands of emails from concerned citizens. We are working hard to ensure accountability. The USPS's mandate is massive, and the stakes of our election are high." In Washington, D.C., I'm Patrick Terpstra reporting.
All right, Patrick, thank you. Now, finally in our lineup, we could be in store for some exciting news from the National Zoo. We have the latest details on a baby panda watch next. Well, in 2020, it can be tough sometimes to find news that brings you joy, but today we have some for you, and it comes from the Smithsonian National Zoo in Washington, D.C. Giant panda Mei Xiang is pregnant. She is due any time now, and you can follow along. There are some new cameras in her habitat.
The access that you're getting to Mei Xiang right now, especially in the evenings, is the exact same access that we're getting. And we get a lot of excitement and a lot of false alarms, with she's doing this or she's doing that. And we're kind of the same way. We're excited and anxious all at the same time. So
she was artificially inseminated in March. Panda pregnancies, they are different than humans because you really don't know for sure until it's almost time for birth.
When you do finally visualize one, you're sort of at the home stretch already. So by the time you see one, things are really starting to ramp up. Mei Xiang is an experienced mother. She's been fantastic in the past.
Yeah, she has 3 other cubs that were given back to China when they turned 4, which is under the zoo's agreement. We were there last year for the last cub. You might remember Bebe's final days in the States. The pandas are reintroduced into the wild in China. Mei and the giant panda's father, they're both on loan. The zoo's currently discussing their agreements. They were set to expire at the end of this year.
But of course, in the year of 2020 and murder hornets and COVID-19, of course, this is the year she had one. So it's a welcome distraction for us, and I hope it's a welcome distraction for everybody else who's supporting us and paying attention.
Yeah, the panda cameras, they will be up the entire time. Now, some Americans say voting by mail, it's not just convenience, it's their only realistic way to cast a ballot.
You have to drive 2.5 hours to the west to the county seat where you can vote in the courthouse.
Yeah, tomorrow voters in some rural communities worry that their ballots won't be counted unless their local governments do more to make voting easier for them.
Rounding out the work and school week with some nice weather here on Friday. 85 will be the afternoon high after starting off in the 50s. After that, those overnight lows are back into the 60s for us, and the afternoon temperatures are going to continue to climb as well. By next week, we've got those highs right around 90 degrees, and it looks like it'll be a fairly dry stretch of weather too. Thanks for joining us at 5:30. The news at 6.